So utilities have a lot of capacity constraints with new large loads coming on. Y'all are bringing new large loads online inside these service territories. The utilities are getting very creative in incentivizing you as healthcare facilities to be able to utilize your behind the meter solution, or maybe they want to put a solution that you own in front of the meter, so it could be like a supply side resource to them. What types of programs are interesting to the healthcare industry that are, yeah, that makes sense for me to participate in some type of rate structure or interruptible load program?
Well, I mean, in my cases, you really need to look at what is the impact to my operations overall. If I'm going into a demand response program, how often is that exercised? How often do we have to do that? Is that just a test once a year, or are we doing that weekly?
Right.
If you look at peak controls type situations where you're trying to control your peak, does that make sense? That kind of goes back to what your risk tolerance is and your risk assessments again is, it's not about making money. It's more about saving money, but keeping the impact to your facility down. In my case, I do demand response, and it helps a lot. From a financial side of the fence, it's very good program to be in, but we're lucky that we don't have to use it very often, other than a test a year. Then you have to start balancing whether it's right to, what's it cost me to run my engines? What's it cost me to staff personnel when those engines are running? What's it cost me in fuel? I mean, our fuel prices are up and down. When they're up, it's very expensive. How much more maintenance am I going to have to do on the engines? Am I going to trip an interval where I've got to do some major things to my engines or my systems out there to do it? So does it make sense? And those are really individual facilities questions that you have to dig deeper. You can't just say, oh, look at the money. Well, that's only a one puzzle piece of the whole puzzle.
So you can't chase just the dollars with the initial capital that it takes to put the solution in place. You have a whole lot of other things you got to consider, right?
I believe so. Yeah. Yes, George. I mean, that when you're in a different way.
I agree with sentiments, but I think pretty much wherever you are in the country, it feels about the same to me.
Right.
I think from my perspective, what I liked was chasing free money for the most part.
Right.
I think if it looks like free money, I think it's palatable for a healthcare organization. It's not our core competency.
Right.
But if it's essentially free money, and what I mean by that is in an 8-year period that we participated, we were dispatched one time.
Right.
But yet we were paid every year.
Yep.
That feels good to me.
Yeah.
If we're dispatched 5-10 times and it's in the middle of the afternoon and we have 20 ORs going, it starts to not feel so good.
Right.
But I think that chasing free money is very palatable.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you bring up a good point there. So what if the incentive program from the utility was for them to own that power plant at your facility instead of you? Because you said it's not our core competency to maintain a solution like that and make sure that it's always going to be operational. Does that flip the script a little bit on the other? I mean, is it the healthcare facilities really say, "Oh no, I'm not interested in that utility owning this. I want to own it."
I think it depends how it's schematically configured.
Yeah.
If you're transmitting power back into the grid, I think that's a whole different subject, and I think that's fairly safe. If you're taking your load off the grid,
Yeah.
that's different.
Right.
Because now you're doing internal switching. Something may go bad when you're doing that switching. I think that's where the risk starts to increase.
So you're making a conscious decision of taking load off. So then you got to get back to what we were talking about in the beginning of this, right? My number one mission is patient care.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's our core competency.
Yeah. Okay.
Anytime you blink power in healthcare,
Yeah.
People's eyes wide open, oh, you can't, we power go black. We got 10 seconds to get power back on. Count to 10 in the dark. It's an eternity when you're in a black building. So you have to really weigh that out, whether it's worth the risk. And I kind of agree with what George, I'm not sure I'd want to do that.
So
Yeah.
10 seconds is a lot longer in the dark than
Feels
when
like
the,
an
when the sky flew.
I had a nurse come in one time using an elevator for 5 minutes with the lights out.
Yeah,
It was 10 seconds,
yeah.
but she was scared.
Yeah, absolutely.